Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Now, unlike the two main people who I know, and who I'm going to mention in this video today, Nerdrotic and Just Some Guy, I'm not a Lord of the Rings nut like they are, and I say that with the greatest of respect. I like Lord of the Rings. I think the movies are great. I used to love watching the animated Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. I've read The Hobbit many years ago, but I'm not somebody who knows the lore inside and out like these two gentlemen do. And you could say that's, oh, that's a bit sad, you're missing out. And I don't think so, because what it allows me to do is it allows me to listen to them. It allows me to listen to videos that they create about Lord of the Rings, and to learn and to get this great knowledge of this wonderful universe created by Tolkien. And so I don't see it as a loss myself. I see it as a great learning opportunity, or an opportunity of entertainment, an opportunity, as I spoke earlier today in a video, of escapism. And as you may be aware, most of you will, there is a Lord of the Rings prequel coming out on Amazon. And it's going to be very expensive to make, with production values coming close to $500 million. That's production values. And they have said that they'd like it to be their sort of Game of Thrones. And there's kind of alarm bells, as they've hired intimacy coaches, and they've put on the casting that they're looking for people who are comfortable with full nudity, with partial nudity. And yeah, it's not how I would associate Lord of the Rings. I find Lord of the Rings quite pure in nature. I find it just a fantastical land, Middle Earth, where we have these incredible creatures and this wonderful evil to be defeated, and this incredible journey that they go on. I don't think of Lord of the Rings as some quasi Game of Thrones. I know it's after the fact, but still, I don't see any potential Lord of the Rings as some quasi Game of Thrones where they want to ground it in reality, inverted commas, and have all that sort of thing. No, it's not what I would personally desire. This, of course, is my own preference. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone else. Now, recently, with these pieces of news, these snippets of news coming out, both Just Some Guy and Nerdrotic have created some excellent videos on this topic. And because they are both so knowledgeable about the Earth, about the universe, they have deconstructed very well, in my opinion, arguments that have been brought forward as to diversify the world for diversity's sake. Just Some Guy did a great video where he explained where the various races of the world were, and how it would be very unlikely, after the terrible actor from Mortal Kombat came out and said, well, he basically came out with a sales pitch, please hire me, where he said, I don't see a lot of Asian faces in my Lord of the Rings, because my representation and all that, when of course it was just a selfish desire for him to get cast. But Just Some Guy spoke very concisely of the geography and why it would actually be very rare for certain races to appear in certain places due to the distance that would have to have been traveled. And because we are talking about a pre-industrial society, can we say? And I don't know if griffins do to us for free. But yeah, the ways of traveling seem to be horse and cart and not too much else, and a couple of 1,000 miles. Well, you know, okay. So anyway, what they were trying to essentially say is not that they're anti-diversity, not that they're anti this or anti that. What they were trying to say is, if you are, and you know, I'm not trying to put words in the mouth, but this is what I got from it. If you are trying to create a piece of work by Tolkien, then you need to respect the source material. You need to respect the author instead of becoming selfish and putting your ideology into it. And that's something that Peter Jackson was very open about clarifying himself when he created the unbelievable Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is going to hit 20 years old. Oh my goodness me. He said it wasn't for me to put my politics, my worldview into Tolkien's work. It was about respecting his universe, his characters, his lore, and creating the entertainment based off that. And it's one of the most successful trilogies of all time. And it's easy to see why, because the love, the care and attention that was put into putting it together, the casting was spot on, and we'll talk about that momentarily as well. And it was just such a beautiful, heartwarming, heartbreaking trilogy full of ups and downs, woes, temptations, everything that everyone in the world can relate to. Everybody can relate to. And that is the beauty, in my opinion, of something that gets as successful as this. When it can universally be understood and appreciated because of its themes. And that's why in modern times, and I say modern, I personally think we're now regressing quite badly and quickly. In modern times, as we've heard from people like Alex Kurtzman, they just want to take the platform of whichever franchise it may be, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek in his case, Star Wars, yada, 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 and use that platform just to tell their own messages. And I believe the term he used was messages. In layman's terms, propaganda. Propaganda. And that's not what the original Lord of the Rings was about. I'm sorry if this video is going to go on for a bit. I just got stuff I want to say. So listening to Nerdrodic's recent video and listening to Just Some Guy's recent video, these are two highly intelligent, highly knowledgeable people that command your attention when you listen to them. And this is why they're both so popular. And I don't want to put an aside in here, but I got to. I think it's criminal, absolutely criminal, that Just Some Guy isn't 4 times bigger than he currently is, because his work is so phenomenal. He deserves way more. I think he's got like 160k subs. That guy needs 700,000-800,000. He's brilliant. Same with Gary. These guys have got to be hitting that 1 million mark real soon, because they're just regardless of the franchises that they speak from, they're so knowledgeable, they're so intelligent, they formulate their videos, and they say it in such a concise manner that everyone can understand and relate to. Just a couple of great channels amongst I think a plethora of unbelievable channels that we have access to nowadays on the YouTubes. And because of those two videos, I think we got what I'm going to discuss now, which was a response but I don't think it was a response per se to Nerderotic or Just Some Guy. I think that this response that we're going to see now from OneRing.net, and I'm taking this first article from Bounding Into Comics, and then I'll be jumping over to Bleeding Fool, and also I've got a couple of Twitter posts which I'd like to show off as well. Is I don't believe this person listened to either of their videos in full. Maybe read the titles, maybe listened to a couple of minutes. But I think that this person, whoever this may be, and I believe that this is the biggest Lord of the Rings fan site out there, whatever. Not as big as either of Gary or Just Some Guy from my knowledge. They have fabricated their own straw man argument and are now trying to twist the words. And I'm not talking about the two channels here. I'm talking about of Tolkien. To push their own pathetic agenda. So out of nowhere, and of course it's June, so it's Pride Month, and by Pride Month, of course, I mean there's legitimately, you know, gay people celebrating what used to be a taboo, and which is now open. This is why we can have things like Pride now, because we did grow as a society organically, naturally. And then, of course, you get people who try and twist it to their own ends. They try and use the diversity. They try to use the orientation to hide behind, to shield themselves. Again, I've got a tweet, quite a sad tweet, which I'll share with you at the end of the video. And that's what they're doing here. They're wanting to go onto the attack, and they want to use Pride and Ian McKellen to defend themselves, to shield themselves. Listen, always a good start. The narcissists always have, pay attention, listen, that kind of stuff. We've been dealing with homophobic comments for decades, and it's still wrong. They don't post any. They don't show anything, by the way. This is all, it's coming out of my mouth, believe me. And if there was the level of hatred that this person is talking about, then it wouldn't be difficult to produce a sheet. We've seen Data Racer do this all the time. Of hatred that's been put out there to support his argument. Nothing, by the way, nothing. Whatever toxic arguments are being said now about Lord of the Rings fandom and adaptations, now he's clearly referring to Nerderotic and Just Some Guy, is the same trash that said Ian McKellen was the worst affront to Tolkien's legacy ever. Now, this is where I get pretty pissed, because Sir Ian McKellen, being a Brit myself, Sir Ian McKellen is fucking beloved. Beloved here in the UK. And I think I can say worldwide, but he's an absolute treasure. Sir Ian McKellen has been an out homosexual pretty much all his life. Never something that he's hid behind. Never something he's been ashamed about. In actual fact, his courage in being somebody that was so flamboyantly out is one of the reasons why the development of tolerance happened organically. And the first time that I came across Sir Ian McKellen was back in 1988 when he played Dracula in the Pet Shop Boys music video for Heart. And he plays this real funny, when I say funny, it's just a little campy, because camp is great in the UK. We love our camp. A little campy, but then a little bit, you know, a little bit nasty as well. Typical brilliant Shakespearean acting that he could take to a little musical video. Believe that I believe that Heart actually hit #1 in the UK charts. Then of course he's had multiple different roles since and before. I think his next big prominent role then came in Magneto in the X-Men franchise. I think that's when a lot of people got their first dealings with Sir Ian McKellen. And this is hand on frickin' heart here, I cannot recall a single, oh, my hand is on my heart, by the way, a single solitary negative word said about Sir Ian McKellen at all. None, ever. He's brilliant, he's funny, he's charismatic. His camp humor is just divine. His impressions are hilarious when he does his Dame Maggie Smith and all this kind of stuff. The way that he'll fawn over handsome young men, it's beautiful. He's a beautiful man. And to have him dragged in by name to this pissant's straw man argument fucking makes me mad. Makes me really fucking mad. You don't deserve to even say his name. You remove that from your lips immediately. You have no right to drag him in and drag him into your pathetic straw man argument, because the reality of the matter is you are too scared of opinion. And if you wanted to really challenge Nerdrotic and Just Some Guy's video, then you would actually have listened to it, picked out points, and wanted to debate them, hopefully, in a nice manner, with Gary or with Just Some Guy. But no, you created a pathetic straw man Twitter post and tried to hide behind diversity because you're a fucking coward! Because you're a fucking coward. It's a word that I use often because, unfortunately, it's a word that comes up with regularity when dealing with people like this. There is always going to be some exceptions to the rule. There's always going to be some dickhead that says a disparaging comment about somebody who might be gay or black. There's nothing you can do. But when you try and take that and use that as the basis for your whole argument, and that is a 0.0000000 fucking more %, it just shows how disingenuous you truly are. Hashtag pride. Trying to shield themselves up. Then we get another tweet, which is really interesting. Cogent, respectful debate on Tolkien is always welcome, but homophobic, racist, misogynistic trash is always a case for banning. I will not provide any instances of homophobic, racist, misogynistic language being used or arguments being brought forward, but I'll strawman them as well. It's not what Tolkien fandom is, wants, or welcomes. We used to be able to ban in the era of message boards and IRC, but in the era of social media, the platforms can't keep toxicity out of our community. We can mute and block, but that's only for this account's feed. Twitter is not a community simply because it lacks anti-troll tools, nasty people still show up in replies because their toxic friend sub-tweeted us. Boo fucking who? Grow a fucking spine. Also, you immediately want to jump to censorship. You haven't provided a single instance of anything homophobic that's been said. You haven't provided a single instance of anything racist or misogynistic which has been said. But what you have said is if we don't like your argument, we used to have the ability just to ban you, to censor you. And that's what's driving them nuts, is because Gary and Just Some Guy have an open platform on YouTube where they can create their videos, and this flipping stringy piece of shite, they can't do anything about it. Can't stop the signal, Mal. Can't stop the signal. And that's what's driving them insane. Because two very intelligent people are putting together very intelligent arguments. And it's driving them mad. That's why they have to resort to straw manning. Because they don't have any legitimate response. Or they don't want to get into discussion with Gary and Just Some Guy. I personally think it would be amazing if they had some legitimate concerns about what they said and they said, hey, Gary, reached out to Just Some Guy, reached out to Nerdrotic and said, I would like, let's do a video together. Let's do a stream together and let's discuss this. It would be brilliant. People would love it. Different points of view coming over. What a great way for everyone to come together and hear each other out. Oh, or you could just hide behind Sir Ian McKellen because you're a fucking coward. Or you could just hide behind the pride flag because you're a fucking coward. I think we know which side you fall on. Spineless. Now then, I want to jump over to Bleeding Fool now. Now this is an interesting bit because we get Just Some Guy engaging OneRing.net. And by the way, please do not contact OneRing.net. This isn't a dogpiling session. This is just my personal opinion. Don't contact them. Let them do their thing. And they say, if you think Ian McKellen is the worst and that Catholic Tolkien would have never approved, I beg you to read more Tolkien books and letters. He was woke, they say. He was woke. Tolkien was woke. He stood against hate, embraced all cultures in life and fiction. It's why his books are translated in every language. Okay, can you define woke, please? Because all you've said there is Tolkien was a decent human being. You don't have to be woke to be a decent human being. I know a lot of decent human beings. Nerdrotic and Just Some Guy are two of them. And they're not woke. They got their finger on the pulse, but it's not the woke the way that you're trying to translate woke as. Woke, I imagine to you means ally or whatever, or echo chamber member that just nods their head. This is the new download for this week. This is the terminology and language that we're going to use. Now, let me just jump here and get into a little bit of a ding-dong that they got into. So Nerdrotic replies to their initial one, by the way. That's strange. I was obsessively following every article, post, thread, and didn't see any of this. Maybe there were a couple, maybe a few. Nothing worth taking seriously. This is how it begins. Throw fans under the bus for access. Disappointed, but not surprised in the least. So Gary's taking the stance of this person is coming out because essentially their whole website revolves around Lord of the Rings. What was the last Lord of the Rings that we had? We had the Hobbit trilogy. It wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. They need this TV series to do well. Because if it does well, being the biggest Lord of the Rings fan site, traffic will be driven towards them. Jingo bingo. And what's a better way to get traffic to your site? Access media. Kiss some ass, get some interviews, get some access maybe to behind the scenes, etc. Yada, yada, yada. It's a story we've all heard a million times before. Ignorance does not preclude the fact Ian McKellen wrote on the subject. Again, they didn't support any of this with that, but okay. And then just some guy says, are you talking about this? Some chat rooms 20 years ago. Because that's what it seems to be. Maybe a couple of people 20 years ago had some kickback because Sir Ian McKellen was gay. Who looks the fool? Sir Ian McKellen or the two idiots? The two idiots, of course. Has time remembered these idiots? No, of course they haven't. They were forgotten in moments. And maybe Sir Ian McKellen just came out and said something 20 years ago in a chat room. And this is their argument in today. Reaching much? Anyway. Some chat room 20 years ago. Come on. No one thinks Amazon's show will suck because the actors might be gay. People think it will suck because Amazon isn't going to respect the law. And we've seen that from the way that they've tried to frame the series with the intimacy coaches, with asking for people who are okay with full nudity, with partial nudity, with trying to get representation put in for the sake of representation. Was the Lord of the Rings trilogy, did that miss out because we didn't have a few boxes ticked in the background? Of course it didn't. Tolkien was very methodical when it came to his construction of his world and where races lived and how far apart they were, etc. Again, don't let your personal politics get in the way of law, because that's what you're wanting to do here. Now then, we have a deleted tweet. But I'll tell you what this deleted tweet said, folks. It said, and this is by OneRing.net, respect the law appears to be a dog whistle for racism now. I mean, unfortunately for them, they didn't realize they were speaking to a black person. Because that's what just some guy is. But because in the circles which we socialize in, no one gives a fuck what color he is. We give a fuck about his character, his content, his integrity, his videos, his intelligence, what makes him a person. So your assumption that only white people on the right can dare argue with you got shot down in flames. This is how broken you are. This is how broken people like this are. Because they claim to be a champion for the woke. They claim to be hashtag pridesies. And yet they fall apart when somebody who they think they're an ally to challenges them. Because the progressive left is disgustingly racist, bigoted, homophobic, and you use the diversity as a shield to hide behind because you're a coward. How many times do I have to say this again? Yeah, I'm black, he said, and I don't use coded language. I say exactly what I mean. Tolkien describes the Eldar and the Edain look like multiple times in his book. I suggest you put down the phone and read the books, since apparently you never have. Well, that's because, of course, it wouldn't fit their argument. I know I've gone on. I'm going to draw this to a close now, folks. I just want to read this other tweet, which I found heartbreaking. But I believe it's true. And this comes from a young lass called Disco Alien. And she says, when we gays decide to hide back in the closet, let me tell you, it's not the Conservatives that drove us back there, but it's our so-called allies from the left. And I think that's absolutely spot on. This is the sad truth. Because fools and idiots like this OneRing.net, they just want to use them. They just want to use them as shields for their own pathetic strawmans. They don't really care. They want to use them to get access to the show because that's the only way their site's going to survive in the long term. This is why corporations suddenly, well, I'm something of a homosexual myself, every June. And then, of course, come July, those banners, they get torn down immediately. Ready for the next group to be pandered to. We were progressing really well, organically really well. We were becoming a real tolerant society. And then somewhere along the line, the far left said, hey, do you know what? We can use this to our advantage. We can use and abuse these people and do it all under the guise of virtue and being an ally. Anyway, sorry for the ramble. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming. Links there in the description box down below. I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.